Not necessarily. All right, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh, you guys are not so happy, it seems. We're going to make this one interactive, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, inshallah, we're going to try to make this one of the best sessions of the day. So, we're going to make it a bit different from your usual panel. We are using an app called Slido. So, if you go to slido.com, that's SLIDO.com, and you put in the hashtag GIEEC, you can immediately start posting questions and voting on questions that you would like to be asked, and I can see all of those here. And we will be posing those questions to the panel. So as soon as they start talking, you can start asking questions like, where did you get that really nice suit from? I like your shoes. Where did you buy those? Anything. But hopefully keep it on the topic because I have to choose the best questions. My name is AHMAD SABREE. I work for ETHISVENTURES as Sharia and Business Development. I produce content, and I also do videos about Islamic crowdfunding and things of that nature. So today is not my time to talk, actually. I'm here to moderate, to help everyone else here to share their stories and experiences. So we have a wonderful lineup of entrepreneurs. I thought we had 3 entrepreneurs, but I was corrected. We have 4. So Mr. David Vickery, he wears 2 hats. He's an academic manager of INCIEF Institute by day, but he's also an entrepreneur in his other time. So just to go quickly, on my immediate left, Mr. KYRI ANDREOU works for Atta Plus. It's an equity crowdfunding platform here in Malaysia. They have launched their platform to help Malaysian businesses and entrepreneurs. The company is one of the 6 companies approved and licensed by Securities Commission Malaysia to operate ECF platforms in Malaysia. His role is generation of business strategy, innovative business modeling, and also branding and marketing and communication. KYRI is a British national, and he has been living in Malaysia for over 20 years, mashallah. Okay, next we have Mr. MUNSHI, who is the CEO of ETHISVENTURES. He's a social entrepreneur since the age of 18. He's been doing startups since he was a teenager. He's also spent half of his business years in Indonesia, a short stint in Saudi Arabia, and now is based in Kuala Lumpur. He founded ETHISCROWD.com 3 years ago, which is the world's first real estate Islamic crowdfunding platform. His experience and marketing leadership of this very new niche evolved and grew rapidly, and Omar saw the unprecedented opportunity and was inspired to set up ETHISVENTURES to build more niche crowdfunding platforms with passionate and like-minded partners. Next, we have Mr. David Vickery, CEO of INCIEF. David, or Brother Dawood, as we should call him, is a chartered Islamic finance professional, and he has 16 plus years in management consulting to the financial services industry. His experience is very extensive. If I go through all of this, you guys will be dumbfounded. But currently, he's holding this position in INCIEF, and in the last 14 years, he has focused exclusively on Islamic finance operations. He's developed an interest in financial literacy programs and developing young entrepreneurs. So David, or Brother Dawood, is very much pro helping the youth to get involved in this Islamic finance industry and also change it. And it's not here what I just found out. He's also done 3 startups. So he has an amazing background. And last but not least, we have our brother Daniel Ahmed from FINOCRACY. Daniel is a management consultant, entrepreneur, and advocate of Islamic finance. A graduate of King's College London, he gained experience at a private equity boutique before joining Deloitte, focusing on technology strategy, innovation, and, of course, FinTech. While at university, he co-founded the Islamic Finance and Ethics Society, intending to explore and develop the solutions that Islamic and ethical finance can provide to socio-economic problems. The society hosted the first UK student-led Islamic finance conference in February 2016, and now Daniel works for FINOCRACY as an associate since November 2016. And that, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, is our panel for today. So can we please give them a round of applause? Okay, so just technical team said you can download the app of Slido to make it easier for the questions. You can download the app. I believe you can do it from the website. Yeah, because I'm already getting questions. I'm getting some questions here already. Someone said hi. Hi. That's not a question, but thank you. It works. It works. Testing, beta testing. What? The first iteration. Where's our code army brother? Yes. So let's get into the session. We have here two platform founders. One is working currently in an academic institution, and another brother who's working in a platform to be in FINOCRACY as well as a consultancy in that area. So since the platform of this event is to focus on entrepreneurship, I think I'll just open up with the first question related to entrepreneurship. So I would like to just ask, starting, where can I start from? Yeah, I have to start with the nearest person, my favorite brother KYRI. So what are the good things, I mean, with your platform, what are some of the good things that you're doing with your platform now that you were doing in the beginning, but you believe that you were doing better now? So let me just say that again. What good things were you doing with your platform when you first started, which you have improved through your experience over the last few years?
I knew that was the danger sitting next to you. Okay, I'll get the first question. What are the good things that we started with and have improved or go better? Well, one of the things we look, I think from the onset, it's when we started. Well, it hasn't been a few years. This is essentially our second year of operations. We launched last March, so this yeah, it's just over 1 year now. But obviously, we've a lot of experiences in this past 1 year. What we've really improved upon, if you like, is the processes and all that. And I think that stems from the fact that we've had a clear vision or in terms of how we saw ourselves. What we wanted to do when we decided to embark on this with equity crowdfunding was not to come in with the usual offerings, if you like, and try to, how can we reinvent equity crowdfunding for the benefit of entrepreneurs? I think it's, essentially you have two constituencies in equity crowdfunding. You have on one side, you have the investors, on the other side you have the entrepreneurs. And you obviously, you've got to try and balance, if you like, you could take an approach of that you try to balance for each one. But what we decided from the onset was that we're going to skew it in favor of entrepreneurs. That doesn't mean to say we discard investors, but we're passionate about entrepreneurs, and we wanted to, we think entrepreneurs will change the world, and therefore, how do we facilitate, how do we make it better for them to access funds and make it easier for them? So what we've tried to do is improve the processes in terms of them applying and accessing funds, make it easier for them and make it cheaper for them. So in other words, take out a lot of the intermediary costs, take a lot of the friction. We're essentially in the space of P2P, but if you look at it, we actually sit a little bit like Uber, in between two parties and whatever. So how do we ease that? How do we make it easier for entrepreneurs to access funds and actually get a better quality of investment in? So that's what we've been doing, is focusing on improving those processes. And actually, please watch this space, because we'll be launching 2 new products that will actually do that in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you very much. So can we pass the mic to Brother Omar? So along your journey from starting ETHISCROWD until now, what is it that you've been doing that was good, but now it's even better through your years of experience?
Assalamualaikum everyone. Through my years of experience, sounds old. Alhamdulillah, we have progressed quite a bit. Maybe I'll highlight 2 things that was good and is now better. One thing that was good was when I started, I knew it was very important to find people with not just passion, but with a deeper understanding of what we're trying to do, which is essentially to shake things up and to create new ecosystems for Muslims, right? So that's not something that maybe the ordinary layman would immediately find it to be something they're passionate about. Yeah, so what I did that was good at the start was I looked for people that were passionate about this, and I found one guy in Indonesia who's my partner for 10 years, yeah, whose name is Ronald Yusof, who's somewhere here. Ronald, are you here? Ronald's hiding somewhere. So I found him. I think that was very important. And it's also a lesson maybe for the new entrepreneurs, it's very important to find the right partners. So that's what we did. What I did at the start that was good. I found someone who I could trust and who believed in the vision. And right now, I believe we're doing it much better because we have a lot of partners, alhamdulillah, partners from around the world. And it is a bit tricky sometimes, especially when you're in something that's, in a sense, trendy. A lot of people come to you to be partners. You need to be very selective. So I think, alhamdulillah, the focus on passion and alignment of interests and values is something that we did at the start, or I did at the start, and right now I'm doing better, inshallah. The second thing that I want to highlight, when we started, we had the intention of doing ethical or social-focused projects, right? But in most people's minds at that time, they always had a division or separation of ethical or social stuff and financial or profit motive based activities. In a lot of people's minds, this is divorced, this is separated, which I think is strange. It should not be that way. Or it needs to be together, right? Especially as Muslims. So at the start, what we wanted to do was social impact investments. And we tried a few things, including non-social impact stuff, to see how the crowd would react. And alhamdulillah, today we have decided over the past 1.5 years to focus entirely on social impact projects that bring social good, projects that bring community upliftment and empowerment. So alhamdulillah, those are two things I would say that have become better.
All right. Yes. So, Brother Dawood, can I ask you, what did you think about FinTech 2 or 3 years ago when it wasn't popular? Did you see a value in it for the Islamic finance industry and for the world in general, or did it kind of surprise you and just jump onto scene suddenly?
It's a great question, and I have to declare my age. I've been aware of FinTech since about the 1980s because I set up a FinTech company in 1988.
Wow. I was 1 year old at that time.
Those of you remember, in those days we had things called relational database technology, and we used the latest relational database technology to create a FinTech company which could do asset-based trading and account for it. The company was very successful for 2 or 3 years, and I was able to sell it on and, then start another life.
See, you guys think you know something. He's already done this. It's like been there, done that.
FinTech, as it is now, was not a surprise. What surprised me more was the fact that 3 years ago we weren't recognizing the power it would have in terms of driving Islamic finance further. I think now, with benefit of hindsight, many of us are seeing that there is a great opportunity out there. But I rather think that post-global financial crisis, which was, 9, 10 years ago, as an industry, Islamic finance and the whole concept of the Islamic economy has perhaps, in my view, not grasped as much of the opportunity that it could and should have, which was created by the global crisis. However, having said that, that's water under the bridge. The opportunities are very much out there, and that FinTech is now starting to be both recognized and starting to be very, very SME or a small startup thing, but there's a lot of capability there. The second thing is, and I'm seeing this, and I mentioned it in my opening remarks earlier today, at our own university, and I'm sure at others, more and more of our people who are learning about Islamic finance are preferring to apply it through FinTech or through consultancy. And it's interesting just looking along the line now. There are 2 of you from ETHIS, and as you know, a number of our graduates are from INCIEF and are working with you. In FINOCRACY, I mean, you invited me to speak at the first student-run Islamic Finance Conference last year, which I was delighted, and I'm delighted you joined Deloitte, because I used to be at Deloitte at one stage. But FINOCRACY, our best ever student, who won the President's Award twice, has joined FINOCRACY out of Bahrain. So what we're seeing is young people with the skills in Islamic finance, wanting to go into areas which will have immediate impact.
Thank you very much. And I very much believe in what you said. I remember I had a lecturer who said if you want to try to do more impactful Islamic finance, something that's a little bit closer to the values, then try to go outside of the banking sphere, because you have more freedom to adapt and to manage and create services that will help people, and you'll be less hindered by so many rules and regulations that you have with the banks. And so I think that's what we're starting to see, which is platforms that are offering Islamic financial services that are a little bit closer to the values of Islam and less complicated even. And also building community with crowdfunding and things of that nature. So that brings me to Brother Daniel, the question I wanted to ask you, because you have Islamic finance background and also FinTech. What do you think the key added values Islamic finance can contribute to FinTech, and what can FinTech similarly contribute to Islamic finance? So how do you see the benefits of these two areas merging together?
Thanks, Brother Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I think I'll answer that question first by looking at how FinTech can offer value to Islamic finance. So I think FinTech is very interesting for three main reasons. I think firstly, it allows access to finance for people who weren't able to access finance beforehand, right? So you have your mobile phone, you're able to access a crowdfunding platform, for example. Secondly, it fundamentally disrupts business models of financial firms. So you see companies like TransferWise, who are not Islamic finance, but they have disrupted the transfer of money industry. And I think that's where the fundamental value will come for Islamic finance. All of you here are probably well aware of Islamic finance, the impact of Islamic finance, what it has had so far, and a lot of people have become disillusioned with Islamic finance, in my opinion, thinking that it doesn't really have an impact. And I think that's where Islamic FinTech will have the most impact. It will fundamentally disrupt the business model of Islamic financial firms, force them to change, and then allow for added benefit to society, like ETHIS are doing, for example. Finally, I think the human capital question is very pertinent as well. When I was hosting conferences and events with VICARY and other people, the main underlying issue that everyone mentioned was the human capital of Islamic finance, that there's not enough good people, or enough people even in fact, who know Islamic finance and who are able to make a difference to Islamic finance. And I think that the FinTech ecosystem, as it's developing, will allow for more jobs to be created in Islamic finance, and will allow for people to be able to set up their own firms, like Daud VICARY was saying. In terms of how Islamic finance can impact FinTech, that's a very difficult question, but I think the differentiator for Islamic finance compared to normal and conventional finance is that its aim is for social impact, and everyone knows this. And I think that's where we'll have an impact, inshallah, where Islamic finance will impact FinTech in terms of focusing it on actual social good instead of a back-end process, for example.
You want to? Okay. Omar wants to add something on that. We've opened up something of, I don't know, amazing proportions. We already have 26 questions here. Go ahead.
All right, many questions, so I'll keep it short. Just to add on, what opportunity is there for Islamic finance? Now, just a quick question. I assume everybody here knows crowdfunding, right? How many of you have ever been involved in any crowdfunding campaign? Whether it's $5, $100, $100,000. Ever been involved in any crowdfunding campaign, Islamic or non-Islamic? Can I see a show of hands? Not too bad. Probably about 30 people, about 10% of the crowd. Thank you. About 10% of the crowd. Now, crowdfunding is an avenue for people to connect to people. Crowdfunding is an avenue for communities to be linked to other communities that can help them or invest in them. Crowdfunding is an opportunity for the Ummah to be united online, right? And the beauty is we no longer have to go to a financial institution or bank to get money, right? Very quick example, in Indonesia I have a friend, Dr. Gamal. Some of you can look for it. You can look for him online. He's I think 28. He came up with a brilliant idea to collect garbage from villages, right? And sell and recycle that in exchange giving them free life insurance or takaful, right? because the villagers, when they pass away, when people pass away, they don't have money for basic stuff. So he helped them by collecting their trash, which they don't want, which they don't need, they see no value in it, and creating value from it. Now this Dr. Gamal, if you were to go to the bank would say, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make money, it's too risky. But if Dr. Gamal were here and asking all of you, can all of you contribute $50 or 50 ringgit? I just need 500 ringgit. 10 of you contribute and I can do this program for this village. I'm sure we'll get that money, right? So this is the opportunity for Islamic finance to really create ecosystems for ourselves, by ourselves.
All right. Does anyone else want to add on to that? If not, we'll go on. Want to add on something?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo a little bit what was said and all that. The first company that we fully funded was actually a social enterprise. We're particularly supportive of social enterprises. And I agree again, with what Rashid said earlier, was that there shouldn't be a divorce between a separation, if you like, between doing good, if you like, and profit. And this is a company that, previous to coming onto a crowdfunding platform, had been had gone around the fundraising to many investors, to VCs and all that, and was rejected. And we thought they were perfect for crowdfunding because of the fact that people would invest not so much purely on the financial return, but more in terms of what they're trying to do, in terms of, they were actually a crowdfunding platform for scholarships. And I think this is the opportunity with crowdfunding, is that you can decide, we can decide what kind of companies we want to give our support to, and what kind of companies we want to succeed, and therefore what kind of businesses succeed, and therefore what kind of society that we actually create.
Cool. All right, thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to go to our list of questions. I hope that someone from the committee can let us know at least when we have like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, so we can manage the time. But yeah, we have a lot of interesting questions here. I'm going to go with the first one that I think is quite interesting. It says here, what would be your advice to yourself at the age of 20 on starting a startup, considering you knew everything you know now? So basically, if you could go back in time to when you were 20 and give yourself advice, what would you give? You want to go first, or you want to pass it?
Yeah, well, first of all, dream big. Shoot for the stars. And just, I wouldn't say be reckless, but one is be very passionate about what you're going to do. I think that's tend to becomes a bit of a cliche at the moment. Everybody says you must be passionate about what you do. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and dream big. It is a journey. It's not a destination.
Okay.
When I was 20?
Yeah, if
last
you could
year,
go.
last year?
Yeah, last year times a few.
Well, I guess maybe it's a little bit cliche also, but I'll tell myself at that time to do what I did, which was to go into entrepreneurship, but I'll tell myself to do it faster and more aggressively. While you're young, when you're 20, that is the time to take risks. That is the time to try and build something. Your energy levels are high. Everything is basically, you're in the prime of your life at that age, right? At the age of 20. So that is the time to run. Run as fast as you can. When I was 20 last time, at that time.
Last year?
Yeah, last year. People laughed at me, right? And I'm not someone who likes to work on image, so I went around wearing Bermudas. People didn't take me seriously. Who are you, a 20-year-old kid trying to do business? But today, it has changed a lot. Right? If you're a 20-year-old doing business, people are like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah? In the past, what are you doing? Why aren't you in university? Yeah? So it's a very different mindset today. So if I were to go back to at that time, and I'll tell myself to be more aggressive.
All right. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dan, you don't get it because you just turned 21, bro. So
I wish.
this is only for the first three speakers. We'll have a different
just
question
lost
for
my
you.
pillow to be comfortable. Age of 20, 1971, I was 20. I was in my second year at university. And I think I can only echo the other comments. I actually wish I'd been braver and done more quicker at that time. But things fortunately sort of worked out and I was able to do a lot of things. But knowing what I know now, I should have kicked off doing the things I do today in 1971.
Awesome. So the key point there is, we're good, you want to say something? You learned something?
One little thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was told this by someone a few weeks ago, and I think this is very interesting. I'm trying to live my life by this. I mean, I was 20 only a few years ago, so it doesn't really count, but I'm trying to live by this like now. So it's an equation which takes into consideration everything that's been said here, which is grit is what you're aiming for, and that equals passion plus perseverance. So passion for something, and you have to have unlimited passion, plus perseverance, because you will have down periods all the time. But if you add them two together and you do well, you will have grit. And that's, like, I'm trying to have that grit. And
All
I
right.
think everyone here is trying to do that.
Passion plus perseverance. That's the formula for grit. Amazing. Okay, let's take one more. I have some questions, but I want to give a chance to the audience. Let's see. Oh, I like this one. So someone, they put their name. This is brave. Okay, so Halal Buddy asks, okay, I have a chicken and egg question. Do we start a business to get funding, or do we get funding to start a business? So basically, do you try to start your business first and then look for funding, or do you look for funding first and then after that try to start the business? So we should assume here that they do have an idea already. Not to say they don't have an idea. They have an idea, but should they just try to start it off on their own first and then look for funding, or pitch the idea first and seek for funding? Okay.
Well, there's no correct answer, but you should definitely consider that if you start and bootstrap, you use your own funds or your own time, your own resources, your own energy without raising money, and you prove your concept to some extent, you have a prototype, then the value of what you have is more than just an idea. And ideas really, some of you may not agree, but really I believe ideas are worth nothing. Ideas are worth nothing until it becomes something, right? So you may think your idea is brilliant, but you're going to meet investors who meet people who think their ideas are brilliant all the time, right? But if you have shown that I've created this app, I've created this web app, I've created this platform, and people are using it, and people are loving it, and it's growing every day, yeah? Then you will get much more higher valuation for yourself. So it's in your own interest. And those who invest at very, very early idea stage before there's anything, typically I would say they're not savvy investors. And you want to look for savvy investors so they can contribute to you, not just money, but expertise. Yeah? All right, thanks.
Yeah, well, unless you're an entrepreneur with a tremendous track record, you can list you probably will accept you to be listed on the platform with just an idea, because you've got a track record, and you'll have investor confidence. But I think unless you've got a rich family, it's going to be very difficult for you to get investment otherwise, And again, I'd echo what my friend just said, was that you need to prove the idea to a certain extent, because, like I say, ideas are just ideas. Whether they're worthless or not, yeah, okay. But testing something in a real market environment is completely different from just having an idea. And sometimes, sometimes when you do test it, you find that your business model is wrong, and you can change your business model. You can have the best technology in the world, but if you don't have a brand, a marketing plan, and a good business model, it's not going to work. So yeah, you really need to test your idea. The other thing is investors, savvy investors, want to see that you've actually put some sweat into it, some effort into it, some kind of investment, whether it's actually money or time or whatever.
I'm inclined to agree with all of that, and I think the question is, yes, it is chicken and egg, and the answer is both. In my experience, and I go back to 1988 when I did the startup, yeah, it was our idea, and we bootstrapped it, and then actually a bank wanted to take it on and started to invest it. So we had to work very, very hard to get to that to get to that point. But I absolutely agree with what Brother Umar said. It's nothing. Ideas are nothing. I mean, it's great that you're coming up with ideas. I'm not dismissing that. But until it's translated into some form of reality, an ability to generate revenue, or people can see the revenue, then it's just an idea. You have to convert it. It has to have an impact.
All right, we'll go to the next one. All right, so since this conference is called GIEEC, this Global Islamic Economy Entrepreneurship Conference, I want to go to the Islamic part. So, as entrepreneurs, I'm sure you've probably all faced some hard times, with your business. So, can you share a little bit about some hard times you faced in your business, and how did your faith get you through there, get you through that hardship? No one wants to go first on this one.
All right. I'll go first. Yeah. About 6 years ago, Ethis is 3-year-old. Before Ethis, 6 years ago, I had a business that was doing very well in Indonesia. It was in 5 different cities. It was growing very quickly, and I had committed my life to it for about 7 years, right? Since I became an entrepreneur. I even left school for it. And that business actually collapsed in a week. In 1 week, he went to not just zero, he went to negative, and quite a large negative. Yeah? So at the age of about 27, I was in debt, business losses. So I had to go back to Singapore. And the worst thing was that this business loss was, in a sense, not my fault. I was cheated or ripped off by someone. An internal partner, a partner from another country. Anyway, so I lost that. I lost a lot of money. I lost my business, and for a while I lost my reputation also, because before he left with all the money, he told everyone the money was with me. So that's what happened overnight. Literally in a week, it became zero, and then it became negative, and it became worse and worse. So then I came back to Singapore, and I was thinking, what just happened? What just happened to me? People always told me, if entrepreneurs will go through ups and downs, and I never went through a down in that sense until then. So my mom helped me a lot. My mom is my spiritual teacher, and she told me this is Allah's will, right? As a Muslim, you have to accept that this is good for you. You may not see it then, you may not know it then, but whatever calamity may have happened to you can only happen to you, and it's meant to happen to you, and it will always happen. It is supposed to happen to you, right? And you have to accept it. And it has to make you stronger. And I found much deeper meaning in it, because from there I discovered Islamic finance, right? And after I discovered Islamic finance, it just continued until what I'm doing today. So I think that's what I want to share. As a Muslim, when you do business, ups and downs will come. Rescue is from Allah. And as an entrepreneur, it is an amanah given to you to create something, because you have been given this ability to be an entrepreneur, to create something good, not just something that makes money. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, let me pick up on that. The company that I founded in 1988 did very well in 88. 88 was struggle, but 89 we made some money. 90 we made some money. In 91 the market turned against us, and the lead bank that we'd sold the product to was taken over by another outfit, and that outfit decided that they didn't want us. So we moved from a company that had about 30 staff and was generating, I put it in pounds, about 15 million pounds a year, which was quite a lot at that time. We went way back down very quickly, and I decided the best thing for me to do was to, not quite as dramatic as your story, to leave the company, make myself redundant. And I set up my own, another business to consult. And the third consultancy job that I got was in Malaysia, 1992. And I came out here, and I worked at a bank, or subcontracted at a bank to help re-engineer it. And at that time, the second wave of Islamic finance was starting. And I remember being called into the boardroom of that bank and saying, "You're the banking process expert. We've been asked to open an Islamic window." And my response to that was something about Islamic architecture. I had no idea what they were talking about. But within 6 months, I'd learned enough about Islamic finance to be moderately credible. And within 6 months after that, my faith had taken me to the point where I never ever despaired, but my faith took me to a new point where I converted to Islam. And that's probably the best decision I ever made in my life.
MashaAllah.
And that has sustained me through all the ups and downs throughout. I'm being guided by a greater authority in my path, and I'm just his instrument in order to execute what needs to be done.
All right.
I just wanted to say something very quickly. I haven't had losses like as big as that, but I think it's only when you look back after things have happened that you realize that things have a meaning. So I was just going to say, whenever something happens, just keep your head up and keep trying, inshallah.
We have 10 minutes left to go.
Just very quickly. Actually, Umar and I had a little conversation just outside a little while ago, and we said we're going to disagree with one another. But I keep finding myself agreeing with him, you know. And I think most of you, a lot of you have aspirations to become entrepreneurs and all that. And I think the thing to do is, thing to always remember is you know, things will happen, bad things will happen, especially early on in the journey. It's all a learning process. Is embrace adversity. Don't let it disillusion you. You actually get growth from it. The only way you get growth is actually through adversity.
Very good. Okay, so kind of related to the story that was told by Brother Omar, someone asked here, when you're having a startup here, wow, questions keep coming. I can't. It's like a Twitter feed; it just keeps jumping. Oh, hi, I'm the timekeeper. Oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, so when you're making a startup, how do you choose the right partners? How do you choose the right teammates when you're launching your startup?
With difficulty, no. I guess it's chemistry, and I think also like in our case, for the three co-founders, we all have different backgrounds, and we all see things from a different point of view. And I think you need to have that. You need to have that, if you like, different perspective on things and all that. So I think the last thing is you want to clone yourself and get someone who's going to agree with you on everything. And so you look at different skill sets and different perspectives. I think that's a critical thing. But also the chemistry, the relationship, and the element of trust. If there's any inkling of lack of trust with your partner, don't do it. Don't do it. Trust your instincts.
Right. Thank you for that. I have other different points. Of course, from the spiritual perspective, as Muslims, if you're not sure about anything, you should always do istihara. Salatul istihara, especially if it's an important decision like starting a business with a new partner. But from the logic or rationale-based perspective, my answer will not directly address the question. Is because I assume when you have a partner, you have reasons why you want that partner in. It's more about quantifying and understanding the potential value, initial value as well as potential value of that partner to your business, and making sure that that value is accurately depicted in shares and or income and or options, right? One thing you should always consider is options. You find a guy who seems perfect. He says he can contribute A, B, C, D, E and bring you to this level, right? But he'll take 3 years to do it. And we don't know whether he's going to contribute beyond A, yeah? So then you can just have an agreement where he has these shares first, and if he contributes B, C, D, he has more shares in future. It's an option. Yeah, so that's very important. My advice would be make sure you quantify, analyze, plan. Both sides agree this is my potential value to your plan, to your business, and thus I'm having this. I feel I'm worth more. I'll give you more if you hit milestones A, B, C. Yeah? So that's the way I would approach it.
I think two things. One is trust. I think you have to have some level of trust which is established, or a good level of trust. And secondly, I agree wholeheartedly. You can't manage what you can't measure, so you have to actually, and benefit of hindsight, now I've done this 3 times, is you have to have much more metrics out there in actually deciding and anticipate what's going to happen and how you're going to measure the performance and what your expectations are. Just having the trust and the friendship isn't enough.
All right. Okay, so next question. I hope it's not the last, but we'll try to go as much as we can. This one is going deeper to the greater idea of the ummah, because we're here in very comfortable situations. Like I was just watching a small documentary a couple of days ago, and it talked about poverty even in Malaysia, and there's certain people they struggle just to have enough money to pay for their daily food, to send their kids to school. So, I mean, those of us that are here, we are probably, somewhat near to the top 1 or 5% of the ummah. Where we may feel that we are regular, but if we haven't come into contact with those that have much less, we will not realize how blessed we are. I mean, look at the place that we are in and what we're doing right now. So, thinking about the ummah, a question here comes, it says there are lots of initiatives for Islamic finance. The Islamic finance industry has been doing this and that and trillions of dollars. okay? But the ummah is still suffering and lagging behind in several things, economic-wise. So what is your view of how the initiatives of entrepreneurship and fintech can actually do something to help the people on the ground, those that are not in, you know, the industries, as we say, just the regular ummah overall?
Okay, I mean, my view on that, firstly, I agree that Islamic finance per se, for the number of years it's been there, has not done enough. And you can ask me about why offline. But in terms of the policies, I think fintech and I think the focus on social entrepreneurship now, those of us in the Islamic economy and Islamic finance certainly have a great opportunity to change that around. I look at our own graduates, I look at where they're going, what they're doing, and also the potential impact and indeed the actual impact they're having is very much revolved around applying the ideas of fintech, but with the experience of knowing something about Islamic finance and also being Muslim and followers of Islam, actually being able to do something about it to create the change, joining up the dots in terms of creating an awareness. I can just cite an example. On Monday and Tuesday this week, I was in Switzerland. On Monday, I was working with the International Red Cross, who we partner with, looking at linking fintech, Islamic finance, and not just donations, but using endowments and using funds in order to mobilize funding for social impact. Similar situation on Tuesday, where I did the same thing with UNESCO and the United Nations in Geneva. And these are opportunities where not only can we influence, but we just create the awareness that we have the products, we have the technology. What we have to really work on is the change management. It's changing the goalposts, moving the playing field. There is financing for this. We have the brains, we have the technology, but we have to change and create a different level of awareness. Biggest challenge we have is that word Sharia, the most negative word in the English language today. We have to demonstrate that we are a power for good and that our value system is as good as, if not better, than everybody else's.
The question is really good because, I mean, I've had an interest in this from the beginning. So when I first started the society at university, you know, I was hosting people, apart from the human capital thing, a lot of people were saying that Islamic finance doesn't have an impact. And that was very disillusioned. Like, it was a disillusionment for someone who was aspiring to go into Islamic finance, because you think, you know, Islam, finance, economics, this is it. But, I mean, I even did my dissertation on Islamic finance, and I was speaking to SABREE outside. Essentially, I was looking at whether Islamic finance has had an impact on the world, and I did that through econometric analysis. So I was looking at two indicators, GDP and inequality, and the result was that Islamic finance has had no effect. And there were many reasons for that. There could be because Islamic banking asset size is so small compared to the overall size, but then there's also the fact that a lot of Islamic finance is murabaha based, which isn't exactly Sharia based. So to answer the question, I think Brother VICARY answered it very well, but I think to add onto that the practical applications of fintech and what things are actually happening now to help the ummah and the poor is through working with your Sadaqah platform, which I'm sure you'll talk about, and through FINOCRACY, and we're trying to build a zakat platform called Human Crescent, which will essentially allow for people to donate, crowdfund zakat donations to a specific project. So I think those are the sorts of things that will inshallah have an impact in the future.
Thank you.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. One
Same
for you
question?
and one for him. Yeah, same question.
Right. Now, yeah, Islamic finance does seem to be very top-heavy, and there are a lot of articles and reports on that. I feel basically the problem is that most of Islamic finance outside of the capital markets is Islamic banking. And banks are not created to help the layman or low-income communities especially, right? And the Muslim world is largely in developing countries, yeah? So banks just have a lot of barriers that don't allow them, or maybe it's a lack of willpower, wallahu alam, but they are not able to reach these people. And the people who are in need, which is the ummah, the community, the global Muslim community. And I believe that the only way to do it is through fintech, crowdfunding platforms, as well as mobile-friendly websites and apps In Indonesia, inshallah, after this, we will have a short session on something new that we want to share. In Indonesia, we have a friend who's an ustaz. We'll talk about him later. But his activities and the apps that they have come up with have helped millions of Indonesians who are in rural areas who don't have proper access to the internet. But with a simple, cheap smartphone, today's smartphones are very cheap. And with 3G, they can have access to finance, you know. So the opportunity is there. And what is really, really needed is for more people to come forward and to actually support more aggressively, not passive support. Oh, it's interesting, this is cool, this is good. What you need to do, what everybody needs to do is to get involved. And get involved doesn't mean putting money. Get involved can just be spreading the word. Yeah.
Last minute.
I'm out of time. So anyway, no,
That means 5 minutes.
you know, I'm going to echo what Brother Dowd said. That there is a perception issue with Islamic Sharia finance. And so there's a branding issue. There's a branding challenge that it needs to overcome. But I think there was a window of opportunity created after the 2008 financial crisis. And actually, I'm quite disappointed that Islamic finance hasn't really taken up the mantle in terms of presenting an alternative, if you like, financial options and whatever. If you look at it as a percentage of wealth held, it's only 2%, I think, of the global market, whereas something like ethical funding takes up about 20%. So I think you can see the opportunity for growth is there. So 40%, yeah, there you go. So you see what the opportunity is. And I think the whole world is moving towards more ethical investment anyway. And I think that's a golden opportunity for Islamic finance. But I think the other problem is that there's a tendency to wait for it to be top-down driven, and I think that's wrong as well. And with FinTech, what it allows you to do, it can be a bottoms-up approach. And that means all of you getting involved and whatever, and really changing things. And that's what FinTech does, empower all of us to be able to do through P2P, through crowdfunding, and so forth.
Thank you very much to all of our panelists. And I will just say from all this to summarize that any of you that still have questions or you have something that you feel you're not satisfied with in the current situation, that should be your fire and your motivation to go and do something. Start your business, or at least start interacting with people who've done businesses, and start growing your idea. Don't let it just be an idea. Let it be something that turns into action. So hopefully you can interact more with the speakers here. We received over 40 questions, so you guys are amazing. We can't take them all, but grab on to any of the speakers after this and continue the discussion. Thank you very much. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for